Good morning, everyone. Welcome in a new day of this session, 7 days faculty development program, which is organized by IIMT College of Management on entrepreneurship across dimensions, innovation, finance, and intellectual property. Today's topic is design thinking and innovation pedagogy for management education, which offers you a valuable insight into creating sustainable, competitive, and scalable business models in Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem. To enrich our understanding on this topic, we are privileged to have with us distinguished academician, Company Secretary Dr. Bhagwan Jagwani sir, whose expertise and scholarship perfectly align with today's session. Allow me to introduce Sir Company Secretary Dr. Bhagwan Jagwani sir is a distinguished management academician, trainer and consultant with extensive expertise in the area of finance, accounting and corporate governance. He brings with him over 26 years of rich experience spanning industry, academia, and research, including significant exposure to academic leadership and institutional administration. During his career, Sir has successfully served in various leadership capabilities such as director, campus head, dean, and demonstrating excellence in academic governance, faculty development, and institutional growth. He is a fellow member of Institute of Company Secretary of India and holds a doctorate and postgraduate degree in commerce. He is also UGC NET qualified and has earned several professional and academic certifications for renowned national and international institutions. Sir has conducted more than 55 management development programs, faculty development programs, and training sessions in India as well as abroad. His research contributions are noteworthy, with over 50 research papers published and presented in Scopus, Web of Science, and ABDC Index Journal, as well as in reputed national and international conferences too. An accomplished author, Dr. Jagwani sir has written several academic books and has been honored with prestigious recognition such as Best Paper Presenter and Best Faculty Awards for his scholarly contribution. At present, he is serving as Dean at ICSI Center of Corporate Governance, Research and Training, Manesar, Gurgaon, India, where he continues to contribute significantly to academic excellence, research advancement, and professional capacity. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. We will like to hear from you, your views, your idea, and some insight on design thinking and innovation pedagogy for management education. So I welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that introduction. And once again, a good morning to all the participants of this wonderful initiative taken by the institution, a faculty development program, a 7 days faculty development program. And once again, thanking all the organizers for considering me worthwhile to share my thoughts on a very pertinent topic, very pertinent pedagogical tool, which is design thinking. So, Madam Sakshi, my screen is visible, I guess, right? PPT is visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible. You can start this slide mode, sir.
Okay, I'll just start the slideshow. Okay, so as Dr. Sakshi set the tone of the FDP, the topic is design thinking and innovation pedagogy for management education. I have been a management professor, so I've been teaching students of management, both undergraduate as well as students pursuing master's program in management. And design thinking was one of the courses or one of the subjects that was introduced in the course of MBA, as well as later it was introduced in the course of BBA in this part of the country to which I belong. And then that was a time a couple of years ago when I went through the subject of design thinking, the course of design thinking. So here we are not talking about the course of design thinking. Here we are talking about the tool of design thinking, the technique of design thinking, the methodology of design thinking, and as to what is design thinking. Is it a management education pedagogy? Can it be used as a management education pedagogy? Number one. Number two, is it really innovative enough? Or is it some old commodity packaged in a new showpiece or a new packaging? So let us try to understand that. The presentation is really simple. It tries to highlight the tool of design thinking. I'll be supporting my presentation with relevant examples. Either those examples will be appearing on the slide or they would be off the slide, where I'll be relating to certain real life examples that I encountered, and I use the design thinking to come across those problems and to find out a solution, and try to compare the method that I used of design thinking with the traditional method had I not known design thinking. So I tried to compare two methods and tried to find out as to which method had an edge or an advantage over the other method. So it is not that management education has not taken place earlier. It has been into practice much earlier. So at that time, we never used to listen to this term design thinking. Now we are aware of this term design thinking, or we have at least heard about this term design thinking. So this means that there have been several tools used before, traditional tools, and now one of the innovative tools or one of the latest tools is design thinking. So that is the reason I was very much interested to compare the results that I found by using traditional tools and the result that I found using design thinking. So that comparison also helped me to understand the depth of design thinking, the essence of design thinking, the importance of design thinking, or the significance of design thinking. Now, coming to the next slide, and of course, my name is Bhagwan Jagwani. Currently, I am the Dean at the Center for Corporate Governance, Research and Training, established by the Institute of Company Secretaries of India at Manesar, Gurgaon. Now, I hope the participants uh, have come across the first slide of the PPT after the intro slide. And if the first slide is not visible, then Madam Sakshi can always tell me. So the first slide, it starts with a question. It starts with a thought-provoking question. And let me tell each and every participant, whatever is stated in any presentation or whosoever speaks as a resource person over any podium, that those deliberations are not applicable to all management schools or B schools. Those deliberations, those questions, those concerns, those thoughts may be applicable to some and may not be applicable to others, because others may be performing really well. But yes, in most of the cases, it's applicable to most of the B schools. So this question is applicable to most of the B schools, most of the management colleges. And the question is, why most management teaching is not in sync? It's not in sync to what? Of course, industry expectations. So see, whatever we teach our students should be able to perform really well when they step into the industry. And my dear friends, let me share with you that when I say that our students have to be made ready to step into the industry, it doesn't mean that I'm pointing towards only the employability of our students. I'm also pointing towards the entrepreneurial skills of our students. And just like preparing an objective type question is a bit tougher than preparing a long essay type question. Similarly, trying your destiny at entrepreneurial ventures is a bit difficult as compared to trying your destiny at job ventures. So for our students, the skills that are required to be employable, the skills that are required to succeed in a job More or less the same skills are required to succeed in any entrepreneurial or startup venture. In fact, uh, in any entrepreneurial or startup venture, it requires more efforts. So, why most management teaching is not in sync with the expectations of the industry when our student steps into the same, whether it is for employment or it is for any entrepreneurial venture. If you go through the first point, it mentions that today's workplaces, they demand more of problem solving and more of creativity. Simple terms, very simple terms. Industry requires not only employees, they require employees who are problem solvers. They require employees who are creative enough when it comes to adopting solutions to solve problems. So, problem solving and creativity. Now, as compared to our times, of course, I'm of the age bracket of 50 to 55. I'm sure there must be some participants belong to that age bracket. When I used to be of say 20 years old and that time, and when I used to search for employment, there there was a common thing amongst all the employers. They wanted people who are good in communication skills. Today, also employers require people who are good in communication skills. But that time, these were the skills that were most demanded in terms of, or the only skills that were required: communication skills, good learner, and a bit of adaptability. But today, organizations, when they hire, they want to train less. They want to give you less time to adapt yourself to the job, and they will not give you a terrain to work where everything is sorted, where everything is clear. If some problem arises, whether on a soft issue or a hard issue, they expect you to be at the center of the issue and solve the problem. So, with some support, of course, from your mentors, from your seniors over there, but that's over a limited time, because in today's world, what I've seen, particularly after Corona, I've seen that most of the times the training of employees, in most of the cases, the training of employees at the time of induction, orientation, or the time of say when they spend 6 months down the line, or when they have to reskill or upskill themselves, most of the times the training is now online, or is training is now self-driven. So training used to be a lot at the time when I used to search for my job. The mentors really used to train us. We used to go for on the job training. But now in today's world, even if some organizations that follow structured training programs, a 6 months training program or what, they try to find these traits in you, whether you are a problem solver or whether you are creative. That is the reason why most of training exercises now have hands-on things where they want you to come out of that situation and try to demonstrate a creative way of solving a particular issue. But our classrooms, most of the classrooms, they reward lower order thinking skills. And when I say lower order thinking skills, they are memorization, power to recall, or a bit of application. So we are talking about higher order thinking skills that the industry demands, whether it is an entrepreneurial skill or it is an employability skill. For both these things, in order to be employable, in order to turn out as a good entrepreneur, you need to have problem solving, creativity, and all those things. But we most of the classes, most of the B school schools are more or less, we think of preparing our students on high order thinking skills, but most of the times we see that the structure is such that it is more of memorization, and more of rote learning, and a bit of application. I'll give you a small example. For example, I teach a course of financial accounting. Now, when I frame a question paper, I asked the student, I give them a trial balance for those who could understand accounting. I give them a trial balance and certain information just beneath the trial balance. And I tell them that based on this information, prepare a profit loss account, a trading account, or a balance sheet. Now, a student prepares a balance sheet. Now, that is application of the knowledge that they have learned. Now, suppose if I tell them, give them a balance sheet or a balance sheet that is printed in newspapers, and I give them an extract of that balance sheet, and I tell them to just write what comes into their mind. That requires a higher order thinking skill. And if suppose I give them a small problem which I see in that balance sheet, and I make them realize that yes, it is a problem, and I ask them to solve that problem, or what comes to the mind if suppose they have to address that particular issue or address that particular problem, then they have to, they have to apply their brain to the fullest extent. So what has happened is that these are experimentations, and experimentation requires time. And we are all in 50 minutes, 55 minutes, 1 hour class duration. And where there is a semester program, it is a 35 to 40 lecture. And where there is a trimester program of 40 to 45 lectures. So we are all time bound to such an extent that sometimes creativity is possible, sometimes problem solving is possible, and sometimes it is not possible. And what I am talking is that can we have such a delivery methodology where every time, every moment, every class, every lecture we talk about these skills that are demanded by the industry. And mind it, we are not talking about an external party, the industry, because just like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, if a student it decides to go into entrepreneurship, then the student has to prove by himself whether he is able to he's capable to come up with this or proceed with this idea or seek funding. So it's very important to understand that innovation depends a lot on creativity and problem solving, because if suppose it is not creativity in problem solving, we won't have any innovation so far. So it's very important to understand all these aspects. Now, uh, if we look at the second point, industry leaders, you see, consistently report that 85% of jobs require adaptive thinking and innovation. When I say adaptive thinking, this means it should not only be thinking, it should be adaptive. That whatever you are thinking should be in alignment to the situation that requires you to think. If the situation requires you to think in one pattern or in one dimension or in one direction, and you are thinking in another direction or in another dimension or through another pattern, then the thinking is not serving the desired purpose because it has not yet adapted to the situation. So it's very important to understand that your thinking should be adaptive, and it should be in sync to the situation, and innovation should be at the core. It should be the outcome of your thinking, because see, it is something known as thinking, something known as strategic thinking, and something known as creativity, and something known as innovation. And if creativity, innovation has a very 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 simple definition, a simple mathematical definition. Innovation is equal to creativity plus commercialization. If you're able to commercialize your creative thinking, then that's innovation. So, and that is on a bigger scale. Otherwise, within an organization, there are several moments where you can have tiny bits of innovation to deploy to solve that particular problem. So, industry leaders have consistently reported that 85% of jobs require adaptive thinking and innovation, and these are the skills that, unfortunately, traditional pedagogy fails to cultivate. And students, they struggle when faced with ambiguity. So this is very important. Students, whenever they face uncertainty, whenever they face a situation where they do not know, where they do not know what is going to be the course of action to be adopted, what is going to be the course of action to be followed, then that creates uncertainty or ambiguity or confusion. And then that's the point where students are not able to live up to the expectations of the corporate. So ambiguous environment is one which has caused the industry people to expect a lot from students. And I know most of you, please put it in the chat box if you have heard about this term. I'm sure most of you have heard about this term, a term known as VUCA, VUCA, where the entire world is turned out into a VUCA environment, where V stands for volatility, U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, and A stands for ambiguity. So volatility means you never know where how in which direction the industry will go, and uncertainty is wherever it will go, you do not know the outcome. Complexity is even if some outcome appears, it is very complex to understand the main reason behind the same because the world is interconnected. And ambiguity is all these things create confusion. So students, they do not face VUCA assignments. They are not given VUCA tasks. They are not given VUCA question papers. So they do not learn how to counter VUCA. And the most dangerous thing in the VUCA is the last letter, which is A. And A is ambiguity, and ambiguity is confusion, and confusion arises only when there is volatility, uncertainty, complexity. So it is very important to understand that we need to make our students learn how to deal with confusions. You see, in today's world, if you could read between the lines, whatever I'm saying, the market has turned to such an extent that you need to please the customer, and customer is the king. And another point of reflection, just read between the lines. Another point of reflection: earlier in a Gurukul system, the faculty members used to choose the students as to who deserves to be to study from us. And now, if you see, then students choose the faculty members. When I say students choose the faculty members, I'm not trying to demean the current practices. What I'm saying is the fact that a student has an option to choose between between B school A and B school B, is actually choosing between the B schools. And when a student chooses between two B schools, then he does not choose only the brick and the mortar structure. He chooses what are the different placement scenarios in both the institutions, and who are the people who are involved in teaching and all those things. So what I'm trying to say is students now have a choice. So we need to understand that there is a gap between education and industry expectations, and this gap is widening like ever. So very simple slide that emphasizes a very important point, that industry values graduates or freshers who are good at adaptive thinking, problem solving, creativity, because all these things will eventually lead to innovation. This is slide number 2. If it is not visible, then please do let me know. From teaching content to designing learning. Yes, this is what we are exactly supposed to do. What I'm trying to say is that see, earlier we used to be a sage on a stage. Is some Sant Mahatma coming on the podium and delivering a sermon or a lecture or a very sort of intellectual discourse, and the students were supposed to take a notebook, a pen, and write down whatever is being spoken or whatever is being written on the whiteboard or the blackboard or whatever is nowadays visible on the PPT. So the role was a sage on a stage, and where the rules were such, of course, in my times, that whenever we used to cross question our faculty members, we used to think a lot before cross questioning. That used to happen at the end of the lecture. I mean, in between the lecture, we never had the courage to ask certain questions. unless and until the faculty used to prompt for asking questions. So the role of faculty is now evolving from the traditional sage on the stage to becoming guides on the side. So now the role is that a faculty is a facilitator. He's a guide. There is an outcome. It is pretty clear that where the students have to reach, what the students have to attain. It's pretty clear that the guide is not going to replace the student when it comes to performing on those outcomes. The teacher is not going to replace the student. It's only that the teacher is there, the facilitator is there as a guide. So rather than a sage who actually passes certain instructions and you have to follow those instructions in dictum, in verbatim, in letter and spirit, now it is a guide, and the guide leaves upon you. The guide shows you the different paths and leaves upon you. So when it comes to encountering that problem, the guidance has to be kept in mind and the best solution has to be reached at, which will require a bit of creativity from your end, a bit of innovation from your end, and a bit of adaptive thinking from your end. So that's the difference. So rather than being a sage on a stage, we need to be a guide on the side of our students. And facilitators should transform into experienced designers. When I say experienced designers, this means that the facilitators or the faculty members should come up with different tools and techniques. They should design the learning. For example, there is a set of class, and all of you would agree to this. I'm sure all of you would agree to this. If you disagree, please put it in the chat box. All of you would agree that our class of today, the composition of our class of today is all mixed. We have either good students, above average, we have average students and below average students. No matter whatever segmentation you do, even amongst the above average students, we can still calibrate. So what I'm trying to say is, we have a mixed class in today's environment. So we never thought that the same methodology, the same design would work across each and every student. Now, this has come to the forefront. This discussion is now very important as to one size does not fit all. If this is a saying, similarly, one tool will not serve everybody's purpose, everyone's purpose, each one's purpose. So we need to try to have several designing tools in our kitty so that whenever we come across a segment of the class that requires more of understanding, we use that tool. I'll give you a small example in management education. You must have come across the pedagogical tool of flipped classroom. Flipped classroom, where the roles are flipped, where you give material to the students, say 1 day in advance or 2 days in advance or 1 week in advance in most of the cases. You give material to the student, you tell them to study those materials, you ask them to study those material, and when they come to the class, they need to explain that thing to the rest of the class, to their batchmates. You know, this flipped classroom technique is so important, but you know what is the basic purpose that it serves? Most of the instructors or facilitators or management educators, they use flipped classroom, but they do not understand the best method of using flipped classroom. You know what is the best method? The best method is, of course, you give material to the students. They prepare those materials, and you ask those students to prepare. Now there are two things. Those students in the class, that those who are slow learners, what happens that when you ask above average students to present what they have read on the whiteboard, blackboard, or on the PPT, then they start presenting, and then you as a facilitator, you need to approach the set of slow learner students while their presentation is on, so that others, they learn from the presentation, those who are above average or average, and those who are below average, you during that class time, when that presentation takes place, you go to them and you guide them, you make them understand, because they may be even finding it difficult to understand from the 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 student presentation, just like they must have found it difficult to understand from your presentation when you delivered your presentation for the very first time. So point is, flipped classroom gives time to the facilitator to pay attention to the slow learners in the class. That is how flipped classroom is used at its most efficient level. Otherwise, you ask the slow learners to come and deliver on the stage, they would do that, but then that would turn the entire class dry unless and until those slow learners are practiced enough. But once you give individual attention and give them the confidence, next time I'll ask you to come and present, then that will turn that will yield the positive results, that the expected results. So facilitators should transform into experienced designers who should create environments for discovery rather than simply delivering content. So the environment should be such that it should promote critical thinking, problem solving, and it should promote innovation. Our pedagogy must mirror the complexity of the real world challenges. Whatever case studies we use in our class, whatever caselets we use in our class, those are static in nature. When I say static in nature, whatever is written in black and white is already there. So if a case study runs through two different sessions of a class, say in two lectures, you cannot change what is written on that case study. It is all in black and white. But if you use simulation, simulation is what I say. My favorite line is, simulation is variable case study, or simulation is a case study where variables keep on changing. So that will have a lot of learning. But simulation games or simulation exercises are expensive, and we often need to refer to data to people, to vendors who sell us simulation. It's a bit expensive, and those who are very cheap, it offers only one or two simulation packages, which overruns its utility. So our pedagogy should mirror the complexity of real world challenges, and real world business challenges are what? It's volatile out there, uncertain out there, complex out there, and it is ambiguous out there. So design thinking, this is a tool, this is a pedagogy that offers a proven framework, tried and tested framework to bridge this gap of what we teach in the class, what in the method in which we have been teaching in the class, and the expectation of the industry out of experiments that we are expected to do in the class. So this is a gap. So design thinking is a framework that bridges that gap. It transforms management education or even engineering education. I've been a campus director of an institution that had engineers also. We used to run engineering programs also, and their design thinking is in fact most very useful than engineering also, and it prepares students for adaptive and innovative thinking. So the the title of the slide is from design thinking to designing, from teaching content to designing learning. So rather than us teaching a particular content, we content will always be there. It will not go here and there. It is always there. What we need to do, how to deliver that content, how to design the learning, how to ensure that learning takes place in a particular manner. So what I say is, learning by hearing, learning by listening, learning by seeing, and learning by doing. So learning by doing is one of the methodologies where you ensure the learning takes place. So we need to design learning. And one of the methodologies that helps us to design learning is design thinking, right? Now, we come at the next slide, which is the mismatch between education and workplace reality. My dear friends, believe me, these are four statements, 4 points, and this is the reality that takes place inside the classroom. We give students problems, that is half truth. The complete truth is, we give students structured problems where everything is there. There is nothing which a student expects from outside in terms of a fresh element to be added. These are all structured problems, whether they are case studies, we have learned that a case study does not have an ideal answer. That's true, absolutely true. But the real world is not interested in listening to that different answers. It is interested in fetching from you the optimal answer. So optimality is the key over here. So business challenges, they are messy, they are ambiguous. They are not textbook scenarios with clear answers, structured problems with structured answers. Real world problems require navigating uncertainty. Students should enjoy to navigate over uncertainty. In fact, uncertainty is the new certain thing to bound to happen. Students should always enjoy uncertainty, uncertain environments, anything coming from anywhere. That's the reason you see that in most of the B schools now, they are asking students to, they are making it mandatory for residential campus, study, where student is within the campus all the time, so that at any moment of time, anything can happen. For example, a class can happen at 10 in the midnight, a class can happen at 8 in the morning. Students can be asked to go to the field and collect data within the campus or maybe outside the campus. And students can be asked to limit themselves within the classrooms for hours and hours and hours. So nothing is certain what is going to happen. So suppose if your student or if anybody in your acquaintance who's studying in any top class college, if that particular person comes and tells you or shares with you that in our institution nothing is certain, anything can happen anywhere, then you should be happy. And we should not say why. In our case, we follow proper procedure. See, I'll tell you what, industries never operate as per procedures. Industries operate as per need. And the need uh, can erupt suddenly, can appear before you suddenly. So what do? All of us remember Corona. As management educators, it was so difficult for us to reach out to the last student through internet. So difficult. There are students of different financial backgrounds. They used to complain to us that their GB limit, their data, daily data GB limit used to exhaust while downloading our heavy presentations and materials. So we were all acting in a structured manner because we are not prepared for that uncertainty. So what I'm trying to say is that is one of the examples that we faced. Businesses have a lot of problems to offer to our fresher students. So we deal with structured problems. We should emphasize to deal with unstructured problems. Missing critical skills. Students lack empathy. Empathy is when you put your feet into the shoes of another and try to understand the problem in the way that person is facing that problem. So empathy is a very important skill. It means that you understand the problem in the right spirit in which the problem facer is understanding the problem. So students lack empathy, students lack creativity and experimentation capabilities. The word, see, in the Western world, failures are celebrated. But in India, on this part of the world, it's very difficult to accept that there can be a failure. So students lack empathy, creativity, and experimentation capabilities. Unless until they experiment, they will not going to find. When somebody asked Thomas Alva Edison that why don't you deliver a lecture on how to make a bulb, he said that I can deliver a lecture for say hours and hours and hours on how not to make a bulb, because there were so many different methods of not making a bulb rather than as compared to one single method of making a bulb. So students lack empathy, lack creativity, they lack experimentation. They are not ready to experiment. The experiment gives failure most of the times, and failure is not celebrated. But these are the very skills that drive innovation and problem solving. Because when you try innovation, you're going to fail most probably one or two times or more times, and then that failure should act as a catalyst to enable you to empathize with the problem well and to be more creative in your problem solving while you come out with a solution. And we have passive learning legacy. Traditional pedagogy promotes passive absorption information rather than active engagement. This means that most of the times the only physical exercise that used to take place in our times of the PT, physical training, where a whistle used to blow and we used to raise our hands and then do those physical training exercises, or some cricket or some football, but those used to be sports. What I'm trying to say is, can we have sports like environment during our study? Can we have game like environment during our study? Yes, there is a pedagogical tool of gamification, where all the real world problems, they are presented by way of a game, and students are supposed to solve that game and come out with a solution. That's actually a gamification technique. So traditional pedagogy, that it required passive involvement of students, but the modern methodology requires active engagement of students, where they use critical thinking, where they collaborate for problem solving, because team building, the essence of team building is collaboration within the classrooms. If students do not collaborate on projects, do not collaborate on assignments, then forget about the team building skill that we expect them to develop in among themselves. Now, growing skill gaps. Industry reports consistently highlight widening gaps between graduate capabilities and employer expectations. Why? Because whatever we are doing within the classroom, that needs to mirror the industry expectations. So faculty members need to spend more time with industry people, or industry people need to spend more time in education institutions as expert lectures, guest lectures, adjunct faculty members, visiting faculty members, and then only we'll be able to bridge the gap. And then only new pedagogical tools will be put into use, or a new pedagogical tool will be invented in order to bridge the gap. Now, come to the next slide. What employers actually want today? 70% of the employers prefer or prioritize problem solving over grades. 65% of the jobs, they require a design thinking mindset or a design mindset. Now, employers prioritize practical problem solving abilities over academic grades when hiring. Most of the faculty members over here must have noticed that a student who is an average has got a good package, and a student who is really good, it's difficult for such students to find placements. And when you ask employers, you would say that we want people who are street smart, we want people who are fast learners, we do not want people who are rote learners. Rote learners means ratu rota type. So and 60, and McKinsey has reported that nearly two-thirds of roles now demand design thinking capabilities. And mind it, my dear friends, I have not yet told you what is design thinking. I'm going to enter into the main part. I know that 15 minutes remain. I'm going to enter into the main part in a few moments from now. So the World Economic Forum identifies creativity as the one of the top skills for the future of work. And innovation has shifted from being a nice to have a person to a core managerial competency across industries. I mean, innovation, earlier it used to be that it is nice if that person is innovative. If you have it, nice. But now it is not nice. You must have it. It's a core of the competency trait that industries are looking in freshers. And organizations are actively seeking graduates who can navigate the state of confusion, who can navigate ambiguity, who can empathize with stakeholders, who can understand the concerns of each and every stakeholder. That is empathy. And who can prototype solutions, who can come out with different solutions, and then which one is the optimal or feasible solution, and then go ahead with, you know, testing that solution, and then coming out with a permanent solution. So prototype solutions rapidly, speed is of essence over here. And these are the capabilities that design thinking pedagogy explicitly develops. So design thinking is it involves all these things. There's a problem, we need to empathize, we need to understand that problem, we need to think as to what can be the possible solutions, we need to come out with the solutions, we need to test the solutions. If required, we need to build a prototype and then test those prototypes and then come out with the solution. And if the solution is feasible, sustainable, economical, optimal, then we can go ahead. So that is the entire technique of design thinking. It's a structured technique. Technique is structured, but structured technique deals with uncertainties. which are usually unstructured. Okay, so design thinking in one sentence. Design thinking is a human-centered approach to problem solving that focuses on empathy and experimentation, integrating thinking, doing, and reflecting to drive innovation. You not only have to think, you have to do what you have taught, and you have to reflect upon the result of your doing, which you have taught earlier. So it is thinking, doing, and reflecting on your deed. And then again thinking if required, again doing, again reflecting. The process continues till you come out with a solution that is acceptable, that serves a desired purpose. This pedagogy of design thinking, or this term design thinking, or this technique of design thinking originated from Stanford School and IDEO. IDEO is a very reputed design thinking organization. So design thinking has revolutionized how organizations approach complex challenges. It has revolutionized, totally revolutionized how organizations approach complex challenges. Because for simple challenges, those traditional techniques can help. But when it is a complex issue, which you cannot understand really well, then design thinking helps you to break up that thing into small pieces and understand each and every part. So it's not just a methodology, it is a mindset. So design thinking, when I used to teach design thinking to students, I used to tell them design thinking is not a course, it's not a subject. Design thinking is actually a mindset. It is a mindset that values understanding users deeply. You have to understand the users deeply. That is the part of empathy. You have to embrace failure as learning, because many times when you come out with solutions, they don't work. Then again, you come back and empathize and try to find out the ideal solution. Failures are celebrated or embraced, and iterating rapidly towards better solution. Iterating means step by step. So design thinking involves all these things. Now, if I give a clear picture of design thinking, then please go through the 6-stage design thinking model. In most of the textbooks, it is a 5-stage model. In most of the textbooks, it is a 4-stage model. But all the steps are, if you merge one step into another, then it becomes a shorter version of the model. Otherwise, I have shown all the steps differently. When I used to teach the 5 stages of design thinking, 5-stage model. But now I used to a 6-stage model, just to give due emphasis to each and every step. The very first step is on the right hand side, top, empathize. Empathize means, if there is a problem, first you need to empathize with the people who are facing that problem, rather than sitting in an AC and a PC environment and trying to find out the solution to the problem that people are facing on the field. It's good to approach the people and visit that field, spend some time with them, try to understand their issues while they are facing that problems, try to experience the journey during which they are facing those problems. Then only you will be able to empathize with them, because then only you will have the taste of the problem by becoming one of the users yourself. So empathize. It is far more than traditional. When we used to do a research, we used to prepare a questionnaire. We never used to understand that the problem that we are trying to address, or the hypothesis that we are trying to frame, who are the people who are subjects of the hypothesis, the respondents. We do not spend time with the respondents and then collect material that will help us to prepare a questionnaire. We never did that. We just used to prepare a questionnaire and then used to approach the respondent. When we prepare a questionnaire, we approach the respondent at a traditional method. When we spend time with them, we understand how do they see the problem the way in which I see or you see as a researcher. Then when we prepare a questionnaire based on the inputs received, then we are actually we have empathized first, and then we took the next step. So that is the difference between design thinking and traditional thinking. So the first thing is empathize. Conduct research to develop an understanding of your users. So first, empathize with your user, empathize with the people who are facing that problem. For example, you are a management person, and suppose the marketing team is facing a problem, where the marketing team is facing a difficulty. Spend the time with them. Go to the market. Just be another marketing guy and try to feel that problem, and then you will be able to understand what are the words that they are speaking, because you must have yourself experienced that particular situation. So empathize is the first step. The next step is define. Combine all your research and all your observations and try to define the problem that the users are facing. So the first step is empathize. Spend time with the users, try to understand what is the problem. Number two, define the problem, because many times you tend to forget the nuances of the problem, to tend to forget the intricacies of the problem. So define the problem. Third, ideate, come out with different solutions. What can be the different solutions? Generate a range of crazy creative ideas. When we do ideation, there is a definition of a problem. We need to revolve around the definition, but the ideation can be wild, something similar to brainstorming. Any idea can be right, any idea can be no idea is right, no idea is wrong, because any idea can be right, any idea can be wrong. So no idea is right, no idea is wrong. Just think, jot down those ideas, and then we try to see the pros and cons in each and every idea. And suppose one idea is chosen, build a prototype. When I say build a prototype doesn't always mean a hardware prototype. It doesn't always mean a hardware prototype. Build a prototype means it can be a software prototype, it can be a hardware prototype, it can be a computer 3D animation, it can be a cardboard structure, it can be a wire structure, it can be a software demonstration. Any prototype, build that prototype, test that prototype. And where you will test? You will test amongst the people in between whom you empathize the problem. So return to your users for feedback, because once if you return to your users for feedback, then only you will get the real or realistic feedback. And then suppose something goes wrong, go back. If you feel that the problem was not defined really well, go back to the definition step. If you feel that there still requires some effort to be put in empathizing, in the step of empathize, go to the empathize. If you feel that there is something wrong in the prototype, go back to prototype. If you feel that more ideation needs to be done, go back to ideate. What I want to say is, the starting is linear. First step is empathize, second step is define, third step is ideate, fourth step is prototype, fifth is test, and sixth is implement. Starting is linear, but if you get stuck in between anywhere of the stage, in any of the stages you get stuck, then you can go to any point prior. So that's not an issue. So it is a circle actually once the entire process starts. And then last, you implement. So this iterative framework guides learners through a structured yet flexible process. Each stage builds on the previous one, but the process is non-linear. Teams often cycle back to earlier stages as they gain new insights. This mirrors how real innovation happens in organizations. That is how in organizations real innovations happen. It is not a structured, not a linear. It is a structured process, but not a linear one. Excuse me. It's a non-linear thing. You can move from any step to any step. Of course, you have to start following a particular stage sequence. So my question to all of you is, when the last couple of minutes of the presentation remain, that how design thinking can be used as a pedagogical tool. All management professors, whether it is marketing, whether it is finance, how are we going to use this? We'll deal more about that. So design thinking as learning philosophy. Here, focus is learning by doing. Failure is a mechanism. Failure is a mechanism. It is not an output. It is just a mechanism. And reflection, iteration, these are very important. Reflect upon the solution. Once the users give you feedback on the solution offered by you, reflect upon the same. If required, go back to the steps, do some changes, come again with a solution. That's how things will happen. And old pedagogy versus new pedagogy. Now, in the old pedagogy or traditional pedagogy, it was lecture centric. Faculty delivers content while students passively listen and take notes. Single answer was used to be the correct answer. The entire pedagogy used to be teacher centered, and focus was on evaluation. Evaluation, that is, what grades the student achieve at the end of the examination, where the understanding and the remembrance of the subject used to matter a lot. In design thinking approach, the entire approach is problem solving. For example, if suppose any marketing, for example, if a new product has to be launched, all the marketing professors over here, if a new product has to be launched, tell the students, give them a scenario that we have to launch this product. Now, tell them design thinking, all those 6 stages. Tell them to apply design thinking methodology and come out with how to launch this product. So, how to launch this product? You need to apply design thinking, each and every stage of design thinking. For example, the first stage is empathize, and the product is something which is a consumable product. Then, a healthy drink, a health drink. Then you need to go to the people, spend time with them, understand what are they drinking, try to ask them whether there's a requirement of health drink, and try to find out what are the health drinks that are already consuming, what is the feedback on the health drink, what are those things that are lacking, what is the thing that they desire for. That is empathize. And then you define, then you ideate, then you build a prototype, and then you test that prototype. And if there is some feedback, go back again, and then finally you implement when things go right. So problem-based learning, where students take authentic challenges through active inquiry and collaboration. There are multiple possibilities. There are complex problems, have numerous valid solutions. Problems may be complex. For example, in a health drink, if a health drink contains sugar, that is a problem for people with diabetes. If a health drink doesn't have sugar, that is a problem with people who go for taste. If a health drink is expensive, that is a problem for people because, see, C.K. Perlad, one of the most celebrated management thinkers, he said that future lies at the bottom of the pyramid. So if you have to sell any product in India, you have to target the middle class or the lower middle class. So suppose you target the lower middle class or the middle class, they have different taste issues, they have price issues. So there are multiple problems of launching a health drink. What should be the price? What should be the taste? Whether it should be with sugar, without sugar, and whether it is without sugar, it should be endorsed by someone. Whether you should go for a celebrity marketing, whether that will have any impact on the users, and all those things. Learner centered, students drive the learning journey while faculty members facilitate discovery, and focus is on exploration. Exploration means to find out something new, to find out, just to go on a wild search and see what happens. So learning emphasizes process, iteration, and developing problem solving capabilities. So this is the entire process of design thinking. So now the question that must be there in your mind is design thinking possible in each and every lecture? Is design thinking possible in each and every subject or course? So the answer to the first question is design thinking is not possible in each and every lecture. Most of the lectures can be done, and design thinking is possible in each and every course, depending on your determination to use design thinking for that course. You need to be far more trained in using design thinking. Training is required. Most of the time, ignorance or most of the times we do not give our opinion on something. We do not easily accept anything because of ignorance of knowledge. So unless until we are trained ourselves, we will not be able to use design thinking in the classrooms. How design thinking changes learners? It emphasizes on critical and creative thinking. Students develop both analytical rigor and creative confidence, learning to question assumptions while generating innovative solutions. Empathy development through user research and stakeholder engagement. Learners build perspective. They taking abilities crucial. These are crucial abilities for leadership collaboration. What I'm trying to say is, one of the empathy techniques, the first stage of design thinking is empathy. One of the empathy technique is you spend time with the user. For example, if suppose it's very easy to catch a train from a railway station, but at the same time there are certain middle class people who avail flight services, air flight services for the very first time. They have this fear of entering into an airport. When they enter into an airport, they do not know where to go, how to go. So unless and until you empathize with that passenger, you will not be able, as an airline manager, unless and until you empathize with the passenger, you will not be able to know what are the points where the passenger feels a bit underconfident. So that is empathy. So it is very important. So through user research and stakeholder engagement, learners build perspective taking abilities crucial for leadership and collaboration. We need to inculcate the skill of perspective development in our students. They should have perspectives. So that will be through only when they seek a lot of experience by spending time with the users. Increase engagement. When I say increase engagement, real world problems and hands-on activities, they boost intrinsic motivation, morale, making learning relevant, personally meaningful, and decision making under uncertainty. Students will get a bit of VUCA, where they practice rapid prototyping. The prototype fails, they test the prototype, it fails, they again build a prototype, they test, they fail it, then sometimes it succeeds. Then practicing rapid prototyping and testing builds comfort with ambiguity and strengthens adaptive decision making capabilities. And yes, this iterative process also develops patience amongst our students. You must have noticed that patience is a trait that is not being taught much often these days. And you must have seen that patience is something that is most lacking these days. Students now wear watches. At our times, we were not allowed to wear watches. Students now wear watches. Now they have a look at their watches whenever they see that the lecture is extending, or whenever the lecture approaches the last couple of minutes, they have a look at their watches. They show impatience. So all these decision making, iterative engagement, hands-on will increase the patience level, will also increase the patience level of students. Okay, now design thinkers, not toppers. Industries do not require toppers. Sorry, my dear friends, they do not require toppers. They require design thinkers. They require people who are good at empathy, people who are good at ideation, people at definition, defining the problem. See, there are many people who do not even understand the problem. So industry requires people who can not only empathize with the problem facers, they can define the problem, they can ideate the solutions, they can work on the possible solutions by building prototypes wherever applicable, test those prototypes, embrace failure, come back to the iterative process, again build a prototype, again test, and then finally implement the solution. So for us as faculty members, we need to pick one course. The first step is start your design thinking experiment. We have to pick one course this semester where you will pilot design thinking activities. We need to identify a real world problem relevant to your subject that students can tackle. We need to design one experiential activity where students do some empathy, ideation, or prototyping, whether that is a field visit, whether that is a classroom exercise, anything. And this is not a GD, this is not a PI, this is not a group work, this is not a focus group discussion, this is not a think, pair, and share strategy, this is not a flip classroom. These are other pedagogical tools. Any activity that requires students to empathize with the problem facers, define the problem, ideate the problem, build prototype, and develop a solution. Something similar to projects, and then reflect and iterate based on student feedback and learning outcomes. So my closing statement would be: knowledge is abundant, but insight is scarce. Future managers must navigate ambiguity with confidence. Pedagogy must model innovation. Design thinking is no longer optional. It is essential for preparing graduates who can thrive in tomorrow's workplace. That's extremely important. Now, with this, I just finish off with one example, a small example. Students, they in my early institution, they used to come late in the first class, 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late. They used to ride their vehicles really fast. So the tendency was more amongst undergraduate students rather than post graduation students, no, rather than MBA students. The problem was more with BBA students. I gave design thinking exercise to MBA students, asked them to solve this problem using design thinking. And you'll be surprised that the senior students, there were 10 senior students who mapped themselves against one junior student. So each senior student mapped himself or herself to one junior student based upon the residence of the junior student. The senior student, if he used to live nearby, that senior student mapped himself or herself to a junior student. Both the senior student was on duty. I mean, it was not the senior student was allowed to come late because the senior student was working on the project. The senior student mapped the movement of the junior student. at what time the junior student leaves the house, his house or her house, what is the mode of transportation, how the senior student reaches the college, or what is the movement thereafter. So that study gave us a lot of insight, and the problem traced to the time at which the students sleep at night. So they used to sleep late in the night and they used to wake up late in the morning. And the reason of students sleeping late at night, when empathy exercises was done more, when empathy exercise, when a problem was defined, it was found that the browsing on Instagram or and on Facebook. So that was one of the reasons identified. So for the junior students, we introduced the concept of digital fasting. We told them that if you do digital fasting, that is, do not use Instagram for the last 1 hour before you sleep, then you will be, you will be experiencing some patterns. So we did that. So when students immersed into this exercise, those senior students, I found them to be really good in subsequent exercises because they learned this technique of design thinking. I'm not saying the late coming problem was solved entirely. I'm not saying that each and every senior student faced a similar experience. What I'm saying is it was a novel experience and they learned a lot, and it showed in their personality whenever they used to tackle a problem. So that's how we can use design thinking to solve real life problems or classroom problems. Okay, that's I'm through with my presentation. I'll be glad if there are some questions to be asked, and I'll be glad to answer those questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. It really a eye opener, and the example which you quoted in each and every slides and the last real life example also, it's really very wonderful that each and every faculty can imbibe this. Uh, my dear friends and faculty members, I would request that whatever the sessions is going on in this faculty development program, try to listen and imbibe in your day-to-day curriculum in your education institutions also, so that it can bring a certain changes in the education sector and industry too. So there is a question of a participant that what can be the future expectation of management in education focusing on the design thinking.
See, I'll tell you what. First of all, that's a very wonderful question. See, uh, design thinking is a pedagogical tool that the world came to know a couple of years ago. So, is this the only pedagogical tool that's going to cater to the needs of the future? No. You never know. You never know what the future will have, what the future has in store for us. For example, we have simulators, simulation exercises, particularly when we teach people how to fly an aircraft. We have simulators, right? All real life experience. Can you imagine a situation where there can be a simulator inside a management class? I mean, in today's world, where anything is possible, everything is possible. I mean, all these things are possible. So, design thinking is one tool that is going to stay for long. You know why? Because design thinking is not only a tool that is a bridge between delivering knowledge and receiving knowledge. It is a tool, it is a technique that helps to build certain skills, inculcate certain skills. One of them is is empathy itself. That before you give any solution in an AC and PC environment, somebody asks you what can be the problem, what can be the solution to this problem that people are facing. Never ever open your mouth offering a solution without using the first step of empathy. So now your step should be, sir, in order to understand the problem, in order to give a solution, I need to understand the problem really well. In order to understand the problem really well, I need to spend time with the people facing the problem. So design thinking is going to stay for long in management education if suppose if it is used rightly. So faculty members should be trained to use design thinking. I must admit, I must say that a 60 minutes lecture on design thinking is good as a starter, as a precursor. Otherwise, there are workshops, a day long workshop on design thinking, where faculties of different streams, supply chain faculties, marketing faculties, HR faculties, and finance faculties. They suppose there are 3 to 4 finance faculties. All of them are given certain projects on design thinking, where they learn how design thinking is applied on them, so as to learn the right basics, and then they apply design thinking on the students. So coming back to the question, design thinking, I've conducted this workshop several times, and I found faculty members coming back to me after several months, after several days, and they share their experiences, and they do tell that yes, the results are really good. So what I'm trying to say is that design thinking is going to stay for long, and management thinking must use design thinking as one of the pedagogical tool. I'm using the word must use, because that's how problem solving, that's how creative thinking, that's how adaptive thinking will be developed among students.
Thank you so
If you
much,
allow
sir.
me,
Yeah,
after you are through, then there are certain questions in the chat boxes. If after you allow me, I'll address those questions.
yes, sir. There's one question. Someone is asking for the free website for the design thinking.
Okay, I request the faculty members to go through to the website of IDEO. Okay, to go through the website of IDEO. It is the very reputed design thinking organization, where they have many things, many material available. And even if you do some random search on design thinking, and and whatever I'm going to say now is something that we do not expect our students to do, but the students are doing it anyhow. You go for Gen AI, generative AI, and then you find out, either go to Perplexity. You go to Perplexity because it gives you the sources, and try to find out the different techniques to design, the different applications of design thinking in real life. Then you will try to find out as to how design thinking is used. You see, I'll tell you what, design thinking methodology is not tough. Methodology is simple. Empathize with the problem facer, define the problem, ideate, and then implement, and then prototype, test, implement. Process is simple. Only thing is, how do you maneuver that process? So IDEO website can be checked, and other random searching can be done through generative AI. And there's one more question which I think is a very pertinent question also, that in the chat box somebody has asked.
Yeah, it is
uh,
any kind of
Mr.
environment is required for the developing creative invention and innovation.
Of course, of course, of course. I mean, I'm thankful to this colleague of ours who has asked this question. There is an environment required, and the environment is, the focus is only on, see, how an environment is built. And what is an environment actually? What is an environment actually? What is an environment? An environment is not the four walls of the classroom. An environment is actually the freedom given by the facilitator to think anything, the freedom given by the facilitator to explain a particular scenario deeply, and the freedom given by the facilitator to come out with any solution, every solution. So all these freedom, with the motto of inculcating creativity, innovation, and invention. So that environment itself requires you to give freedom to your students. And when I say freedom, the word freedom should not be used, because students take freedom in another sense. So the freedom is that it is a challenge that should be given to the students, that will build the environment. A challenge that, let me see who amongst you are the creative people on earth, who amongst you are problem solvers, who amongst you are you know people who are good at evaluating different options. Let me see. So it is something that starts with the freedom, starts with the challenging situation, with the backdrop of a freedom, and the meticulous guidance of the facilitator to uh, restrict the discussion uh, to the stages of design thinking, rather than going haywire. So that's very important. Yes, I hope I answered that question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. All the questions which are raised by the participants has been answered. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Participants, if you have any more queries or questions, you can connect to IMT College of Management. Myself, Sakshi Narayan, you can connect to me so that I can further forward the questions to sir, and then we can have a clarity on design thinking and how to operate it, how to empathize it.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. Again, we would like to have some more sessions with you in further future, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for giving me an opportunity. And let me share that whenever a resource person shares his deliberation or delivers a session, it is learning that takes place both sides. So for me also, it's a learning experience, and I'm sure that the participants also must have learned. And really happy to know about the feedback, because the feedback will help me to improve further, because even in today's world, Bhagwan is not perfect. So so my name is Bhagwan, so I need to be, moving towards more perfection. And thank you very much. And Dr. Manjusha Rajamane, excuse me for pronouncing the name wrong if it's wrong. Thank you very much for your feedback. And Dr. Ms. R.S. Kiran, and I'll be glad to connect with you people face to face in the imminent future, because I love traveling a lot. And right now, I'm sharing with all the participants. Madam Sakshi knows this, that right now I'm in Dubai. I was supposed to be in my hometown, Uttar Pradesh, Kanpur, a couple of days ago. But here there is an institute that has fixed my session on bitcoins and cryptocurrencies, because I'm a finance guy. So I had to overstay my over here. So right now it is quarter past 10. It is quarter past 10 in this part of the world, and I'm sure it must be around quarter to 12 in your part of the world, maybe quarter to 12, maybe. So thank you very much, and we'll be connecting again. And Madam Sakshi, thank you very much for the facilitation. You have been a wonderful host, and I pray to the Almighty to give me a chance to meet you all once again. Bye bye. Have a
Definitely, sir.
great day ahead. And thank you
Definitely,
very
sir.
much for the wonderful feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, participants, for joining us. The feedback form will be shared on your WhatsApp group. And please be connected in afternoon session that will start at 2:30 onwards, because each and every sessions will be having evaluation questions which will be shared on the 2nd and 3rd of the Feb through Google Form. So please be connected with us. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.